So how did you both come to the realization, I guess, that this thing was actually, a sin and something that you needed to combat and cleanse yourself from? Like
Yeah.
how did that conviction come?
So that conviction was whenever I accepted Christ, there was it was probably, so in 2003, again, this is a story I spill in a lot of detail in my first book, but I was in Del Rio down there partying with some friends and stuff like that. This is shortly after me and Tab had just gotten engaged and everything. So I go to down by the border, have this whole experience where it's like, hey, we're doing drugs, we're going to strip clubs, we're doing all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, well, then the next Sunday, I wake up and it's kind of one of those scenes where it's like, I don't know anybody in this room. Where am I? And I've got to get back home. So therefore, I start hitchhiking. This is just for the sake of time because this is a long story, but
Yeah.
I start hitchhiking, and long story short, is I end up in a Bible study that morning.
Mm.
And because someone was giving me a ride, and they're like, well, I have to stop here. Blah. So this whole story, and I was like, okay. And this is where I started hearing about the realization of our decisions and how, they affect our lives. And I was hearing it from a group of people that I did not intend to meet on with, that I'm
Yeah.
down there doing something totally different. And and that took me down a road, and that's why I call it sobering faith, is because that little event in 2003 was almost like an eye-opening moment for me. And but 2 weeks later, I'm at a strip club on a Monday night doing the same thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there was this one little change. I was sitting there and I'm like, I shouldn't be here.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't think this is what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Everything just felt different.
Yeah.
And and so it was more or less like I started getting this awareness of like, okay, maybe, if I'm gonna hang on to my wife and we're gonna get married and have this nice marriage, like maybe I shouldn't be doing these things. Maybe I shouldn't be doing these things. You start looking at people, then you start humanizing the people that you're, you know, looking at a strip club or on porn or something like this. Like, wait a minute, these people are actually real people. Like,
Yeah.
what is their life like? And
Mm.
but I had a moment that was shortly before I went to Del Rio, and I had awoken out of a sleep because I felt like, this gets a little real spiritual, but I literally felt like in a dream that I had like demons pulling my legs.
Hmm.
And it was just like an eye-opening moment, like, and it was just like your decisions are forcing you in some really dark places, right?
Oh, wow.
And I wake up from this experience, and I really didn't even know what to do with it. I was just like,
Yeah.
what, is it real? And it is one of those moments where something is so real. And but I also had always prayed, like even when I was like telling everybody I was an atheist or I didn't believe in God, I still was like secretly praying.
Yes.
I'm like, there's something to this. I just don't know what it is, and I can't figure it out, right? And I'm like,
Yes.
there's something to this.
Okay.
And but but that was kind of the moment for me, and it took a year, 18 months for me to like really start having my eyes open up about all these decisions that just started
Mhm.
really just complicating my life.
Yeah.
And I remember when I accepted Christ, drugs and alcohol, dropped them like whatever, just
Yep.
stopped doing. Thought I dropped porn, and several weeks later, I'm still looking at porn. I'm like, what is going on with this? Like, this is crazy.
Yes.
And so fast forward, we moved into a different house. We're leading a youth group. We're getting super righteous in everything we're doing, right?
Yes. Yeah.
but but we do. We were leading a youth group at our house for a lot of teenagers that just didn't have a church home, and we're sitting in the back with a campfire. And some nights I would say, just let's do an open forum, right? Let's just see what everybody's on. This one kid named Justin, he just looks up and he's like, well, what's up with masturbation? And I'm like, okay. I don't know what to say about this, right?
Yeah.
Immediate conviction over me, right?
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
oh, yo, you guys are struggling with this, and I'm like more than
Mm.
you guys struggling with this, right?
Yeah.
And we have an all over the place conversation about this. We're cleaning up, get the house cleaned up, all the pizza boxes thrown away. Tab goes to bed. I grab the
I
lamp.
wasn't a part of this because it was just
Yeah, it's
guys.
just guys. That's
Okay.
it.
I wasn't a part of this conversation.
So I grabbed the laptop and I'm like, I'm looking up stuff about porn, masturbation, all this stuff like this. I'm like, okay. I find Carl's video from Triple X Church. He does a video about X3 groups. I watch it and I'm like, my first thought was like, oh, that's BS. I don't know about that.
Yes.
Here's the thing. 10 minutes later, I'm looking at porn.
Mm,
And this moment, it just hits me. I'm like, oh my gosh, what I just saw in that video is real. Like what he's saying is a real thing. And
yeah.
I just fall on my knees. And I literally write an email and Triple X Church. And I'm like, I saw this guy on the video, Carl. I want to talk to Carl. Please have Carl call. I mean, that's literally, Carl calls me like the next day.
Okay.
And we start talking about this. And then within like a week, I'm in the support groups already.
Wow.
And so, and that was probably the moment. So that's why I kind of go through that whole thing because with the
Yeah.
guys I even walk with now and the ones I've walked with in the past, it's a process. Because first
Ooh.
off, just like you said, you got to break this construct you have built in your brain,
Yep.
break all that down to even be willing to hear it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I love there's a couple things you said there, and the first is, like, you used to just kinda live this way, the strip clubs, the parties, like, all of this was fine, and then after you started to become more sensitive to the Lord,
mhm.
um, all of a sudden, you're maybe still doing the things that you've
Yeah,
habitually been doing, but now you have a sense that this is not the right thing to do. I went through that as well, like, where I continued to do those things, but then I started to realize they no longer fulfilled me the way that
right.
they once did, and in fact, I was now feeling guilty for doing them after,
Yeah,
the Lord was coming upon me and revealing himself to me, so I love that part of your story. And then also, how it took a fellow believer, a younger believer, but somebody who looked to you for like as a
mhm,
mentor and leader to confess his sin, something he
yeah,
was struggling with, and this brought you the conviction you needed on this as well.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
It was the
amazing.
nail in the coffin for
Yeah.
sure. It was. It was definitely.
Yeah,
Like, I think this is a problem.
yes.
Yeah.
No, I just had a girl on the show, Anna Barajas. I think it's actually the episode before this one that's gonna go live, and
Okay.
she coaches people on breaking free from these sexual addictions as well, and she talked about that being one of the first and biggest hangups people have in letting go, is just realizing, first and foremost, that this is a sin in God's
Mhm.
eyes.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's the hardest part is, like, actually being convicted that this is something wrong for you to be
Right.
doing. But then once you know that, it gives you a good starting ground to begin to fight this thing.